Welcome to Love English Lab. I am Maya, and I am so happy you are joining us for this new series.
Hello, I am Hannah. Today we are going to talk about something really important for English learners, and that is how to think in English. A lot of people ask about this because it sounds easy, but it can be very difficult when you are just starting.
That is so true. I remember when I first heard the phrase, think in English. At the beginning, I did not really understand what it meant. It is about using English in your mind, not just when you speak, but also when you have thoughts, make plans, or even talk to yourself.
And it is different from translating. When you translate, you listen to something in English, but then you change it to your own language in your head, and after that you try to answer. That takes a lot of time, and sometimes it makes you nervous.
Yes, and when you finally start to think in English, you can answer more quickly and you feel more confident. That word, confident, means you believe in yourself and you are not so worried about making mistakes.
Exactly. And thinking in English is a habit, something you do every day until it feels normal. It is not about being perfect. It is about practicing step by step and not giving up.
There will be times when you get stuck, when you do not know what to say or how to say it. But that is okay, because everyone feels like that sometimes. The important thing is to keep going.
And remember, you are not alone. All English learners, even people who speak English very well now, had problems at the beginning.
So, in this podcast, we will give you tips, examples from real life, and ideas you can use right away. And at the end of every episode, we will explain some of the most useful words and phrases, so you can practice them and use them every day.
If you are ready to stop translating in your head and start thinking in English, you are in the right place.
Let us get started, Hannah. I cannot wait to talk about why our brains love to use our first language and how we can start to change that little by little.
And as we continue, if you hear new words like habit, translate, or get stuck, do not worry. We will always explain them with examples as part of our conversation.
Ready for Chapter 1? Let us do this together. Hannah, do you remember when you first started learning English? Did you ever feel like your brain just refused to think in English?
Oh, yes, absolutely. When I was a teenager, I took English classes at school, but my mind was always busy translating everything into my language first. Even if the teacher asked me a simple question, like, "How are you?" my brain quickly changed it into my own words, and only after that I could answer. It was exhausting.
I felt the same. It was like my mind had a special filter that would not let English go directly in. I think it is very common. Most people, when they begin learning another language, use their first language as a kind of bridge or support. That is why we call our first language our mother tongue. It is comfortable, and our brains are used to it.
Right. And you know, Maya, it is not just about comfort. Our brains are naturally lazy in a funny way. They like to do things the easy way. And thinking in your native language is simply easier. You grew up with it, so your mind can find words and ideas super fast.
That is a good point. I read once that our brains work like computers, always looking for the fastest path. When we hear English, our brain goes, "Okay, let me use the old system," and translates it into our language. But that slows us down when we try to speak or listen in English.
Yes, and this process is called mental translation. Mental translation is when your mind changes what you hear or read in English into your native language. Then you create an answer in your language, and finally you translate it back to English. It is like playing tennis with your thoughts, sending the ball back and forth instead of just hitting it directly.
I love that tennis example, Hannah. And honestly, I think everyone has to go through this phase. But at some point, if you want to speak more naturally, you need to skip that translation step. That is when you really start thinking in English.
For me, this was very difficult in the beginning. I would get so nervous. Sometimes, even before I said a word, I was worried that my grammar would be wrong or maybe I would not remember a word. My brain wanted to stay safe, so it used my first language as protection.
That is so true. Fear is a big part of this. When you worry about making mistakes, your mind wants to be perfect, and it uses the language you know best to avoid feeling embarrassed. But in the end, this only makes conversations slower and sometimes even more stressful.
Exactly. It is normal to want to feel safe, but in language learning, it is better to try and make mistakes than to stay silent or wait for the perfect sentence. And the funny thing is, the more you use English, the easier it gets to stop translating.
I agree. I noticed that after a few months of listening to music, watching videos, and just reading small things in English every day, my brain started to get tired of translating. I would suddenly think in English, especially with easy words like hello, thanks, or good morning. Did that happen to you, Hannah?
Yes, for sure. I remember the first time I caught myself thinking in English. I was on the bus, and I saw a sign that said exit. Instead of translating the word, my mind just understood it. It felt amazing, like my brain had learned a new trick.
That is a wonderful feeling. I think that is the first step when some words start to feel natural. But for bigger ideas or more complicated sentences, your brain may still want to translate. It is a slow process.
Exactly. Sometimes students feel frustrated because they want to think in English all the time, but their mind keeps switching back to their language. That is normal. Even after years, sometimes I find myself translating something difficult.
And Hannah, that is totally fine. Our brains need time to change old habits. Every time you try to use English, even if you translate, you are training your brain. With practice, your mind starts to get faster, and you can skip more and more of those translation steps.
It is like learning to ride a bike. At first, you need training wheels. You feel scared and maybe you fall, but if you keep trying, you start to balance on your own. One day, you realize you are riding and you do not even think about it. That is how thinking in English works.
Yes, I love that comparison. And sometimes people feel bad if they cannot think in English from the beginning. But really, it is part of the process. Even native speakers, when they learn a new language, go through the same thing.
Another thing I noticed is that our brains use emotions. For example, if you have a funny or emotional moment in English, your brain remembers the feeling and the words together. So if you laugh with a friend and say, "That is hilarious," you are more likely to remember and use that phrase later without translating.
That is such a good tip. I remember learning, I am starving, in a funny situation. We were really hungry, and my friend said it with a dramatic face. Now I use that phrase all the time, and it comes to my mind in English, not in my language.
Emotions help us learn because our brain likes strong memories. So when you have fun or feel something when using English, your brain makes stronger connections. This makes it easier to think in English next time.
Another reason people keep thinking in their first language is because they do not have enough English input. By input, I mean listening, reading, or seeing English every day. If you only use English in class, your mind will return to your native language when you leave. But if you listen to music, podcasts, or even just read signs or ads in English, your brain starts to use English more and more.
That is so true. When I started listening to English podcasts on my way to school, it helped my brain stay in English longer. Even if I did not understand everything, just hearing the rhythm and the sounds made English feel more normal.
So it is not only about studying hard. Sometimes it is about letting your brain relax with English. Watch your favorite TV show in English. Listen to songs. read a short article online, or even follow an Instagram account in English. All these things are input, and they help your brain get comfortable.
Yes, and you do not need to understand every single word. Even children do not know all the words when they start talking. Your brain is very smart. It learns from context, from feelings, from the way words are used, so do not worry about knowing everything. Just keep exposing your mind to English.
You know, Hannah, another reason people keep thinking in their own language is because they are afraid to make mistakes or to sound funny. That fear makes you stop and translate, just to be sure. But the truth is, making mistakes is a big part of learning. Every time you try, you get better, even if it is not perfect.
Yes, and sometimes I think we forget that native speakers make mistakes too. Nobody speaks perfectly all the time, not even in their first language. So it is okay to make mistakes in English. It shows you are learning and trying.
I wish someone had told me that when I started. If you are listening to us and you feel shy or nervous about thinking in English, remember, everyone feels like that at first. But if you keep going, your brain will get better and faster.
One thing that helped me a lot was talking to myself in English, even inside my mind. When I was walking or waiting for something, I would describe what I was doing or what I was seeing. For example, I would think, I am waiting for the bus, or the sky is blue today. It was simple, but it helped my brain get used to English.
Yes, that is a great exercise. Sometimes I would look around my room and name everything in English, even if it was just in my mind. This is a chair. There is a window. My bag is on the table. After a while, some words started coming to my mind directly in English.
That is a really useful habit. And if you get stuck and do not know a word, you can try to describe it in English. For example, if you forget the word umbrella, you can think the thing you use when it rains. This is called paraphrasing, and it is very helpful.
Exactly. And the more you do it, the less you will need to stop and translate. Your brain will start making connections in English, not just in your own language.
Before we finish, let us talk about some of the words we use today. Earlier, we said mother tongue. That is the first language you learn as a child, usually from your parents or family. When we say mental translation, we mean the habit of changing everything into your own language in your head before speaking or answering in English.
And the word input is very important. Input means all the English you listen to, read, or see every day. The more input you have, the easier it is for your brain to get comfortable with English.
We also talked about habit. A habit is something you do again and again until it becomes natural. So, thinking in English is not magic, it is a habit you build step by step.
And if you get stuck, it means you cannot remember a word or how to say something. That happens to everyone, even native speakers. The best thing is to relax, describe what you want, and keep going.
I hope these words and ideas help you understand why we think in our own language and what you can do to start changing that. Next time, we will share some easy first steps you can use every day to start thinking in English.
Thank you for listening. Keep practicing and remember, your brain can learn to think in English little by little. Hannah, now that we talked about why it is so hard to think in English, I think it is time to share some real steps people can use every day. Do you remember the first thing you did to start thinking in English more naturally?
Yes, I do. For me, the first step was really simple. I started with my daily routine. Every morning when I woke up, I tried to describe what I was doing in English, even if it was just in my head. I would think things like, I am getting out of bed, I am brushing my teeth, or I am making coffee. At first it felt a little strange, but after a while it became more normal.
That is a great idea. I think routines help a lot because you do them every day, so you get to practice the same words and sentences again and again. I did something similar. When I was on the bus or walking to class, I looked at the things around me and tried to name them in English. Like, there is a tree, that car is red, or I see two children playing.
I like that. And if you do not know the word for something, you can try to describe it. For example, once I forgot how to say suitcase. Instead of stopping, I just thought, the big bag I use when I travel. That helped me stay in English instead of going back to my language.
That is really smart, Hannah. Sometimes we wait until we know the perfect word, but in real life, it is okay to use simple words or even describe things. Actually, this is called paraphrasing. It means you use other words to explain what you mean, even if you do not know the exact word.
Paraphrasing is so useful, and I still do it sometimes, even now. Another thing that helped me was talking to myself quietly. For example, when I was cooking, I would say things like, now I am chopping an onion, or I am waiting for the water to boil. Speaking out loud, even if it is just a whisper, helps your brain get used to forming sentences quickly.
Yes, and if you feel shy, you can always talk to yourself in your mind. You do not need an audience. You are training your brain to use English automatically. It does not have to be perfect. You can make mistakes, repeat words, even talk slowly. The important thing is to keep thinking and speaking in English as much as you can.
Another trick I used was to set reminders for myself. I would write a little note and put it on my mirror or my desk. Something simple like, think in English today, or what do you see right now? When I saw the note, it made me remember to use English in my thoughts.
That is a wonderful tip. I used to keep my phone in English too. All the menus and apps were in English, so I had to read and understand them every day. It helped me learn new words and made English part of my normal life, not just something I did at school.
Yes, changing your phone or computer to English is a really easy way to see the language all the time, and it makes things more fun. When you play a game or listen to music, you can try to guess the meaning of new words from the situation or the pictures.
I love that. Sometimes I used to sing along with English songs, even if I did not understand every word. It made my brain get used to the sounds and rhythms of English. Later, when I read the lyrics, I learned new expressions too.
Music is such a good way to learn, and it is not just music. Watching TV shows, YouTube videos, or even short clips on social media can help a lot. When you hear real people using English, you start to notice common phrases like, what's up, no way, or sounds good. These phrases are natural, and your mind will start to use them too.
Exactly. And when you watch a video, do not worry if you do not understand everything. Try to catch the main idea or focus on a few words that you hear again and again. Over time, your brain will remember these and you will start to think of them in English without needing to translate.
Sometimes I pause a video and repeat what the person said. This is called shadowing. You listen, and then you try to say the sentence just like the speaker. It helps your mouth and brain get used to English together.
Shadowing is really powerful. And if you do not know how to pronounce something, you can use apps or even Google Translate to listen to the word and practice repeating it. When you do this every day, even for 5 minutes, your brain starts to remember the sound and the meaning together.
Another thing I want to mention is making mistakes. At first, I felt really embarrassed if I said something wrong, even just to myself. But I learned that mistakes are normal. Every mistake is a chance to learn something new. The important thing is not to stop. Keep trying, keep thinking in English.
That is such an important point. Mistakes mean you are practicing, and every time you practice, your brain learns a little more. It is better to try and get it wrong than not to try at all. I remember once I kept using the word library when I meant bookstore. It was funny, but now I never forget the difference.
We all have stories like that. And sometimes you will say something that sounds strange, but people will still understand you. Most people are happy you are trying to use English. It is not about being perfect, it is about making progress.
Progress is such a nice word. It means you are moving forward, step by step. When you notice that you are thinking more in English, even if it is just sometimes, that is progress.
And progress is different for everyone. Some people think in English after a few weeks, for others, it takes months. The important thing is to celebrate your little victories. Maybe today you thought of one word in English. Tomorrow it will be two.
One last tip that helped me a lot was keeping a simple diary in English. Every night I wrote 2 or 3 sentences about my day. Things like, "Today I met my friend," or "I cooked pasta for dinner." It was a nice way to use English in a real situation, and after some weeks, it was easier to write my ideas without thinking so much.
That is a great habit. I did something similar. And you can also write lists, for example, your shopping list in English or the things you have to do tomorrow. It does not have to be a big story, just a few words or sentences to keep your brain working in English.
Yes, and even when you are planning something in your mind, like what you will do on the weekend, try to use English. For example, on Saturday I will visit my grandma, or I want to go to the park if it is sunny. These simple plans help your brain get comfortable with thinking in English.
And if you forget a word, it is okay to pause or use a word from your language if you really need to. Later, you can look up the word in English and try again next time. Little by little, you will remember more and need to translate less.
Before we finish, let us talk about some of the new words and ideas we use today, so you can remember them. When we say routine, we mean the things you do every day, like getting up or eating breakfast. Paraphrasing is using other words to explain what you mean if you do not know the exact word.
And we also talked about shadowing. That is when you listen to someone speaking and repeat what they say, to practice pronunciation and thinking quickly. The word progress means moving forward, getting better, even if it is slow. And habit is something you do again and again until it feels normal.
We hope you try some of these ideas this week. Remember, even small steps help your brain learn to think in English. Do not worry about mistakes, and have fun with your practice.
Next time, we will talk about how to expand your thoughts in English and make your sentences longer and more interesting. Thanks for listening and keep thinking in English.
So, Hannah, in the last episode we talked about simple steps for thinking in English, like describing your routine or naming things around you. But what if someone wants to go further? How do you move from just single words or short phrases to thinking in full ideas?
That is a really good question, Maya. For me, it started when I tried to describe not just what I was doing, but also what I was feeling or what I remembered from the past. Instead of just saying, I am eating breakfast, I would think, I am eating breakfast and I feel tired because I stayed up late last night. It sounds simple, but you are connecting more ideas together.
Yes, it is like building with blocks. At first, you only have a few, but soon you can make something bigger. When I started making my sentences longer, I used words like because, but, or so. For example, I am going to the park because it is sunny, or I want to study, but I feel sleepy.
Those words are called linking words or connectors. They help your brain put thoughts together, and you do not need to make very complicated sentences at the beginning. Even adding just one more idea is enough. Like, my friend is happy because she got a new job.
That is a great example. Another way to expand your thoughts is by describing details. For instance, instead of just thinking, there is a dog, you can add more, like, there is a big brown dog running in the park. Or if you see someone reading, you might think, she is reading a book? Maybe it is a mystery story.
Yes, describing what you see or imagine makes your brain work harder in English. And if you are not sure of the exact word, you can still use what you know. If you do not know the word for mystery, you can say, maybe it is an exciting book. The important thing is to keep your mind in English.
Another thing I love is to talk about plans or wishes. For example, tomorrow I want to cook something new, or one day I would like to visit Canada. These kinds of thoughts make you practice the future tense, and you get used to expressing dreams or goals in English.
I like that, Maya. And you can also use your memories. If you think about something that happened, try to describe it in English. For example, last weekend I went to the beach with my family. The weather was hot and we swam in the sea. Even if you make mistakes, just telling your story in English helps your mind get stronger.
Telling stories is really powerful. Sometimes I remember something funny and I try to explain it, even if it is just to myself. Like, yesterday my cat jumped on the table and knocked over my water. It makes me laugh and helps me practice at the same time.
And if you want to go even further, you can talk about your opinions. For example, you might think, I think learning English is important because it helps me meet new people. Or, in my opinion, reading books is better than watching TV. Sharing your thoughts this way helps you use English in more natural ways.
Yes, and sometimes it helps to pretend you are explaining something to a friend. You can imagine someone asked you, "What did you do today?" or "What do you think about that movie?" and then answer in your mind. It is like practicing a conversation, but you can do it anytime.
That is true, and you do not have to be perfect. If you get stuck, you can always say something simpler. Maybe you forget how to say opinion, so you say I think instead. It is about making the best with what you know.
You know, when we talk about expanding your thoughts, it is also important to notice the way English connects ideas. Sometimes English uses very short sentences together, and other times it combines them. For example, I woke up, I made coffee. I read the news is fine, but you can also say, I woke up, made coffee, and read the news. Both are correct, and both help your brain get comfortable.
That is right. And using the word and is one of the easiest ways to make longer sentences. I have a brother and a sister, or I like pizza and pasta. Little by little, your brain learns to connect more things in English.
Also, when you want to express a reason, you can use because, like, I am tired because I did not sleep well. Or, when you want to show a result, you can use so. For example, it was raining, so I stayed home.
Exactly. And practicing these words makes it easier to think in English without translating. Another idea is to ask yourself questions in English and then try to answer them. You could think, what did I learn today? Or, how do I feel right now? And answer, I learned a new word in English, or, I feel happy because I finished my homework.
Sometimes I use a notebook and write my answers, but often I just do it in my head. This habit helps me get used to forming longer thoughts in English, and if I do not know a word, I try to describe it or use something similar.
One more thing, Maya. Sometimes I practice imagining conversations in my head. For example, I picture myself ordering food at a restaurant or asking for help in a shop. I think about what the other person might say and what I would answer. It is like practicing for real life, but I can do it anywhere.
That is a fantastic idea, and it makes you feel more prepared when you have to speak to someone in English for real. It also helps your mind react faster because you have already practiced those situations.
Yes, and even if the conversation goes differently in real life, you will have some ideas ready. That gives you confidence and helps you feel less nervous.
Another thing that helps is learning common phrases that native speakers use. For example, "What's up? I'm not sure. Could you help me?" Or, "That's interesting." When these phrases become familiar, you can use them to connect your thoughts and make your speech flow better.
Right, and you do not need to memorize a huge list. Just focus on a few phrases that you hear often and try to use them in your thoughts. Your brain will start to remember them and use them more naturally over time.
Before we finish, let us look at some words and ideas from today's episode. We talked about linking words like and, but, because, and so. These help you put your ideas together in English.
We also mentioned paraphrasing, which is when you explain something in another way if you forget the word. Connectors is another word for linking words, and progress means you are moving forward, even if it is slow.
We hope these ideas help you start building longer and more interesting thoughts in English. Remember, you do not have to be perfect. You just have to keep trying. Every time you add one more word or idea, you are training your brain to think in English.
Next time, we will talk about thinking in English in real situations, like when you meet someone new or have to speak quickly. Thank you for listening and keep practicing. Your English thoughts will grow every day.
So, Hannah, in the last episode, we talked about making your thoughts longer in English and connecting ideas. But sometimes it is easy to think in English when you are alone, and much harder when you are in a real situation. Have you ever felt that way?
Oh, absolutely. When I am by myself, everything seems clear. But the moment someone talks to me in English, my brain sometimes freezes. It is like all my ideas disappear. I want to answer, but suddenly I feel nervous or I forget even simple words.
I have been there so many times. I remember once at a cafe, someone asked me a simple question like, "How is your day going?" And I just stood there for a few seconds thinking, what do I say now? My mind wanted to answer in my own language.
I think that happens to everyone at some point. It is different when you have to react quickly or when someone is waiting for your answer. That pressure makes it harder to think in English.
Yes, and sometimes we worry about making mistakes, so we try to translate everything before we speak. But in real life, you do not have time to translate every word. You need to react, even if your answer is not perfect.
That is true. I learned that it is better to say something simple than to stay silent. For example, if someone asks, "Do you want to join us?" you can just say, "Sure, sounds good," or "Yes, I would like to." You do not have to give a long or perfect answer.
Right. And sometimes you do not know a word, but you can use a different one or describe what you mean. For example, if you forget umbrella, you can say the thing for rain. Most people will understand, and you are still thinking in English.
Another trick I use is to learn some filler phrases. These are little expressions you can say while you are thinking. Things like, "Let me see," "Well," "That is a good question," or "I am not sure." It gives you a second to think and keeps the conversation moving.
Filler phrases are so helpful. I use them all the time, and it is okay to pause and take a breath. In fact, native speakers do it too. They say, well, all the time when they are searching for the right word.
Yes, and another thing that helps is to practice common situations before you need them. For example, if you know you are going to a restaurant, you can practice thinking about how to order food, how to ask for the menu, or how to say you have allergies.
That is a great idea. I used to imagine different scenarios before a job interview. I would think, what might they ask me? And then I would answer in English in my mind. It made me feel more confident and ready.
I do that too, especially before a trip. I imagine talking to hotel staff or asking for directions. Practicing those conversations in advance makes it easier to react in the real situation.
Sometimes, even with practice, you will not understand everything. Maybe the person speaks quickly or uses words you do not know. In that case, it is okay to ask them to repeat or speak more slowly. You can say, "Sorry, could you repeat that?" or "Could you say that again more slowly?" Most people are happy to help.
And if you do not understand a word, you can ask, "What does that mean?" Or, "How do you spell that?" Asking for help is normal. Even native speakers do it when they hear something new.
That is true. And if you really do not know what to say, it is okay to use a phrase from your language and then try to explain it in English. Later, you can look up the word and remember it for next time.
Another thing I do is use gestures. Sometimes pointing or showing what you mean helps when you cannot find the right word. Communication is not just about words, it is about understanding each other.
Yes, and your body language and facial expressions can help too. If you smile and look friendly, people will be more patient and willing to listen.
In real situations, sometimes the conversation moves quickly and you feel lost. If that happens, it is okay to say, "Sorry, I did not catch that," or "Could you say that again?" This is much better than pretending you understand and getting more confused.
Another helpful phrase is, "One moment, please." If you need a second to think, just say it. It is better to pause for a moment than to panic or freeze.
That is a great point, Maya. And remember, every conversation is a chance to practice. Even if you make mistakes or feel nervous, You are learning every time you use English in real life.
Yes, and the more you practice in real situations, the easier it becomes to think in English. Your brain will start to find the words faster, and you will feel more relaxed.
Before we finish, let us talk about some of the words and phrases we use today. We talked about filler phrases like well, let me see, that is a good question, or I am not sure. These give you time to think and make you sound more natural.
We also mentioned asking for repetition, like, could you repeat that, or could you say that again more slowly? And if you do not understand, you can say, what does that mean? Or how do you spell that?
And remember, body language means how you use your face and hands to help show your meaning. Gestures, like pointing or showing something, also help when words are not enough.
The key is to keep the conversation going, even if you do not know every word. Use what you know, describe what you mean, and do not be afraid to ask for help.
Next time, we will talk about how to keep the habit of thinking in English every day and how to make real progress over time. Thanks for listening and keep using English in real life. Every small step counts.
We have already talked about how to start thinking in English and how to use it in real situations. But the big question is, how can you make it a habit? How can you keep using English every day, even when you are tired or busy?
That is a really important question, Maya. Making something a habit means doing it so often that it feels normal. When you brush your teeth, you do not even think about it, right? If you want to think in English every day, you have to make it part of your daily life, just like brushing your teeth.
For me, it helped to connect English with something I already do. For example, I always drink tea in the morning. So I started to use that time to read a short article in English or listen to a podcast. After a while, it felt strange not to have English in my morning routine.
That is a great idea. I do something similar. I have a little notebook, and every night before bed, I write a few sentences about my day in English. Sometimes it is just, today was a good day, or I went shopping. Other times, I write more about how I feel or what I am planning to do tomorrow. It is a simple habit, but it keeps my brain thinking in English, even when I am tired.
And you do not have to do something big every day. Even 5 minutes is enough. You can listen to a song in English, watch a short video, or read a few comments online. The important thing is to make English a regular part of your day.
I also like to set small goals for myself. For example, I might decide, this week I will learn 5 new words, or I will try to think in English when I walk to school. Little goals help you stay motivated and see your progress.
Yes, and do not forget to celebrate your success. When you notice that you are thinking in English without translating, or when you use a new word for the first time, feel proud. Every little step is a big win.
Sometimes it is hard to stay motivated, especially if you are busy or tired. On those days, try to do something fun in English. Watch a funny video, send a message to a friend in English, or play a game. Enjoying English is just as important as studying.
I agree. And if you ever feel like you are not making progress, look back and remember how far you have come. Maybe 6 months ago, you could not think of any sentences in English. Now you can describe your day, have a conversation, or understand more when people speak.
It is easy to forget your progress when you focus on what you still need to learn. But if you keep going, every day your English will get better.
Another thing that helped me was using apps and online resources. There are so many ways to practice English now: podcasts, audiobooks, YouTube channels, language exchange apps, even following social media accounts in English. All of these help you see and hear English naturally.
Yes, and if you find a topic you love, it is easier to stay interested. For example, if you like cooking, watch recipes in English. If you like sports, read news or watch interviews about your favorite team in English. When you care about the topic you want to keep learning.
Also, try to make English part of your real life, not just something you do for class. Write your shopping list in English, change your phone language, or label things around your house. All of these small steps help your brain get comfortable with English.
And do not be afraid to make mistakes. If you forget a word or say something funny, just laugh and try again. Making mistakes is part of learning, and it shows you are trying.
Another thing, Hannah. Sometimes people ask, how do I know if I am really thinking in English? For me, it happened when I started to dream in English, or when I reacted quickly without translating first. Even small things like answering the phone and saying hello without thinking show that your brain is using English naturally.
That is true. I remember the first time I answered a question in English without planning it first. It felt strange, but also amazing. Little by little, your brain gets faster, and you start to trust yourself more.
And if you ever feel stuck, or if you are tired of English, take a little break. Sometimes, a short rest helps your mind relax. When you come back, you are ready to try again with more energy.
Before we finish, let us talk about some of the words and ideas from today. When we say habit, we mean something you do every day until it feels natural. Motivation is the feeling that makes you want to keep going, even when it is hard. Progress is how you move forward and get better step by step.
We also talked about resources. That means anything you use to learn, like podcasts, apps, or books. And goals are small things you want to do, like learning new words or having a conversation.
Remember, it is not about being perfect. It is about making English a real part of your life. Every small habit, every new word, every little conversation helps you move forward.
Next, we will finish our series with some final thoughts and tips for staying confident and happy while you keep learning English. Thank you for being with us so far, and do not stop thinking in English. You are doing great! Well, Hannah, we have come to the end of our series on how to think in English. I cannot believe how much we have talked about, from those first small steps to making English a part of your life.
I know, Maya. It is amazing to look back. I hope everyone listening feels proud of what they have learned. Sometimes we forget how much progress we have made until we stop and remember where we started.
That is true. Thinking in English does not happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and a lot of practice. But if you keep going, you will notice small changes. Maybe you answer questions a little faster, or you do not need to translate so much. Every small change is a big step forward.
Yes, and it is normal to have days when you feel tired or when English feels difficult. Everyone has those days, even people who speak English fluently. The important thing is not to give up. Rest if you need to, then come back and try again.
And remember, making mistakes is part of the journey. When you make a mistake, you are learning. It shows you are brave enough to try something new. So do not be afraid to speak, even if your words are not perfect.
That is so important, Maya. And I want to remind everyone that learning English is not just about grammar or vocabulary. It is about connecting with people, sharing your ideas, and opening new doors. Every time you use English to talk about your life, your feelings, or your dreams, you are building a bridge to the world.
I love that image. A bridge! And every step you take, every word you learn, makes your bridge a little longer and a little stronger.
I hope everyone listening remembers some of the words and phrases we have talked about. For example, when we say confidence, we mean trusting yourself, even when you feel unsure. When we talk about a journey, it is not just a trip. It is the long process of learning and growing every day.
And if you ever feel stuck, remember you can always come back and listen again. You can repeat the exercises, try the conversations, or just enjoy the stories. English is something you can practice for your whole life, little by little.
And do not be afraid to make English part of who you are. If you have a favorite song, a book, or a movie in English, enjoy it. If you meet new people, say hello and share your story. English is not just for the classroom, it is for real life.
Before we say goodbye, Hannah, do you have any last words for our listeners?
I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining us, for listening, and for working so hard to improve your English. You are not alone. Everyone who learns a language faces challenges, but you are doing something wonderful for yourself.
And remember, keep thinking in English. It does not matter if it is a small thought, a sentence about your day, or a conversation with a friend. Every time you use English, you are moving forward.
We are really proud of you. And if you ever need a little motivation, come back to Love English Lab. We will always be here to help and encourage you.
This is not just the end. It is a new beginning. Take everything you have learned and use it in your life. Keep practicing, keep smiling, and keep growing.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck on your journey to thinking in English, and remember, you can do it.
Bye for now, and see you next time on Love English Lab.